I have a new book, and have any of you seen it? It's called What You Don't Know, A Story of Liberated Childhood. Okay. Okay, I'll show it to you. I'll read you the whole thing today. All right, can you imagine what a liberated childhood means? What I mean by a liberated childhood is a childhood where whoever you are, just as you are right now, is loved and accepted and celebrated and free to be just as you are, not unchanging, but changing all the time, right? So you're who you are today, and then you're who you are this evening, and then you're who you are this Friday, and then a year from now, and a year from that. And even as you are getting older and learning new things, you're already completely just perfect. And perfect doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. It means just there's no improvement necessary. You can just be you and be curious about what you're curious about and love who you love and how you love. And so I see your roller skating rink. You got the papers. Cool. So I'm going to tell you a story about a child who is in what I see as a very liberated childhood on account of the people around them really seeing them and appreciating them for just who they are, exactly as they are. Okay. Before I sat down to write the book, I had been thinking about it for a lot of years, but I sat down with a blank page anyway, even though I had a version of the book in like sketches. And I asked the character in my imagination, what do you want me to know? And this is what the character said to me. What you don't know is that life was great before kindergarten. I invented stories and characters that thrilled my mother. I painted my face, I danced. Have any of you ever danced in your pajamas at home and made the people around you really, really happy? Did you ever paint your face just to see what the colors look like on your face? It was fun and I was free. Then school happened. Okay, so what you see here is there's the kid dancing around in the wearing hats and face paint and skeleton pajamas, and there's the older child looking back on themselves when they were younger, and they're remembering how fun it was and how free they were. But then they went to school, and there's different rules at school. There's different expectations of how we're supposed to be. School is scary, he tells us. And then we can't see who's saying this, but someone's yelling, nice flower jacket. And they're saying a bad word that begins with F. And it's a word that's used specifically to hurt somebody who either is gay or looks gay, whatever that means to whoever's saying it. But in some way, it's meant to hurt. It's meant to harm. So this is something that this kid hears when they go to school. School is scary, and scared people are not the most generous or kind. Did I say scared? I mean scarred. So what I mean by that is, like, you can be scared, and you also can be, from being scared too much, you can have like, you can just be very shaky in general. So he's now looking at when he was little at school, going to school for the first time. And he's remembering when he was that kid and he got in trouble for acting like a girl. Like, what does that even mean, acting like a girl? Stop flouncing around, the teacher says to him, and giggling with the girls, Demetrius. I'm putting you on the red. And if you look at that little stoplight, that's a system of punishment used in schools. I don't know if your schools use it, but sometimes kids get put on the red or on the green. And often the names on the red are names of people who are black and brown. And sometimes, and a lot of times, the people on the green are people who look like me or who have pale skin like me. And like, what is going on? So this kid is experiencing like getting in trouble for things that they have no control over, just like, why am I being yelled at for this? But now he's a little bit older and he's thinking about middle school and the pressure of school. Now that I'm in middle school, I have to wonder, what are we even learning here? Besides all the things we have to be afraid of and all the things we can't do. And now we get to see the thoughts of the people at his school. Another classmate is thinking, I can't fail these tests. And the security guard's thinking, I can't fail to protect these kids. And the teacher's thinking, I can't pay my bills. And the child is asking, is anyone safe? Oops, I knocked my people down. Is anyone safe to be genuine, to be whole, to be real? Thank God I have friends here, guardians, protectors, family in a way. And now we're going to meet the people who Demetrius really counts on at school to be there for him. Moxie, my friend who's queer like me. When we do questions, I can explain why I use the word queer and what I mean by queer, if people want to know about that. I have an idea for us, says Moxie. Talk to me after school. Addie, the radical librarian. So this is the librarian at the school saying to him, if I don't have what you need, I'll find it. Librarians can really be counted on for that, right? And then this is Ms. O, my teacher who loves me. And just the bubble beside Ms. O says, I see you. Do you ever have somebody like that in your life who they just smile at you and you can tell they like really, really see you, and they'll be able to see if you're in a bad mood or a good mood, even without you saying anything. Mr. Vasquez, our counselor, who's also queer. And the bubble beside Mr. Vasquez says, I'm here. And the pictures behind him in his office are of Bayard Reston and Audre Lorde. And if you would like to learn more about them, the library or your teachers is a good place to start. But even they are a little bit scared, okay? So he's saying like the people at school are scared and scary, and but not these people, right? These people really can see him and watch out for him and love him, and he loves them. But even they're a little bit scared. How do I know? I sense it. One of the benefits of being sensitive. Have you ever been called sensitive as if it's a bad thing? Like, you're too sensitive. They let me know about safe spaces. And what we see there is the rainbow, which is often put up to show people who are lesbian or gay or trans or bi or all these different words that we can talk about during the Q&A if you want to let people know you're safe here in my classroom or in my store or in my church. This is a symbol, it's a sign that says welcome. So if they're letting me know about safe spaces, that means they might know also that I could be in danger. I'm glad we agree on that. So he feels this connection and he feels like people are watching out for him, even though sometimes people call him bad names. And that's Moxie, his friend, raising a black power fist. They're both black and they have that experience that connects them. Now Moxie tells us her great idea. We're starting a podcast. We're going to tell our stories. Who is we? He asks. Us, the ones who are in this together. Who are we telling? Everyone who listens. What you don't know is there are lots of people I have to hide myself from, but my dad is not one of them. You see him jump into his dad's arms. He has always seen me true. We play together. He gives me space to be who I am. I do the same for him. The air is easy between us. There's enough. He teaches me what his dad taught him. And I use the black and white here to show that we're going back in time to when his dad was a little boy and his granddad was telling him, don't let anybody out there tell you who you are, right? Because you know who you are. That's the important part. And then his dad, all grown up, tells him that good advice too. All you need to be is you. My father loves me completely, and you bet I feel it. And now dad drops him off to be with his mom, you see? And mom is happy to see them both and happy to receive Demetrius back to her house for a visit. So he has two parents, and they are not together, but you see they are pretty peaceful with each other, and the child's happy to be with each of them. My mother fights for us. You know, we see him snuggled up with his mom on the couch, and they both have their devices out. You ever do this with anybody in your life? She was a sensitive kid too. So with the black and white, you can see here that mom, as a little kid, she's clutching a baby blanket. Maybe some of you sleep with something like that is still really special to you, like a blanket or a toy or a pillow. And she's supposed to be in bed. It's late at night, but she's awake and she's mad and she says bad words. The world is so bleeping unfair. She knows about injustice and she doesn't like it, even when she was a kid. She's got her own sense of justice and her own ideas about God. It may sound strange, but when she's cussing at her phone, I feel loved and seen. And now we see mom's reading the news on her phone. She's getting so upset. She says these bleeping blankety blanks brag about endangering the lives of trans kids. They don't know blank about Jesus's grace, right? So this is these are bad words she's saying, right? She's really angry about this. And look at the hearts popping off of him though. And the hearts are popping off of him because even though he's not having an experience of being trans, and we can talk about what that means, he knows that that's his people. And if his mom cares about it enough to be upset about the laws that endanger them, that put them in danger, then he feels safer with his mom because she cares about what he cares about, who he cares about. She lets me know that I matter and that I'm not the one with the problem. The news is atrocious, says mom. Hide my phone from me. Has anybody in your life ever done this with you? Where they ask you to take their phone away, the adults, so they stop watching the news. And she's holding her book by Octavia Butler. She's going to read a book instead of her phone, so she doesn't get so upset. What you don't know, he tells us now, is even though I'm loved at home, the world's ugliness toward gay people lands right on me. They make laws against us, call us evil, try to convert us. Try to convert means to try to change us into something else. And what about the ones who aren't loved at home? What about kids whose own families reject them? So even though he's safe at home and his people love him, he's thinking about his connections to everybody in the world. Maybe you do that too. He wants everybody to feel that safety and belonging with each other too. And the mom is reading in her book these words: God is change, shape God. What could that mean? And now he's in church with his mom. And I don't know if you've ever gone to church or if you go to church, but does he look comfortable to you? Now mom looks happy, she's comfortable. He does not look comfortable to me. Churches can preach all they want about love, he tells us. The only thing that I feel when I'm here is shame. But the shame isn't mine, and it's not coming from God. I have nothing to be ashamed of. Right? So he's telling us something. We can talk about shame too if you want. And we can talk about some of the things that we hear in church if you ever go to church or if you ever hear from religious people. Sometimes you hear things that are not nice at all, and they're not about love. And he's saying, I have nothing to be ashamed of. My spirit flows free. And look at his spirit. It's floating free. It's floating up. His spirit is floating up into the ceiling of the church and doing loop-de-loops. And who came in from the side? Jesus Christ is in the house. Jesus, he says. Jesus says, yes. They're both floating up there in spirit form. You're here, always and everywhere. Do you know what's happening down there? Yes. Now he's going to ask his questions, right? Because he's got the Spirit of Jesus Christ right in front of him. He wants to ask questions. Does it hurt your feelings if I don't believe in you? Jesus says, it's my job to believe in you, and I do. And Demetrius' spirit says, So we're cool? Jesus says, always. Hey, Jesus, says Demetrius. Hey, what? Are there other gods besides you? And look at their faces. Look how excited he is to find out the answer to this question. Are there other gods besides you, or is there just one? Jesus tells us divinity. Divinity is holiness, what's sacred, what's natural, divinity, what's divine. Divinity is everywhere, in everyone and everything. And look how reverent Jesus is. Look how he looks with so much love on the wolf and the cheetah and the snake, and like an ancient cracked goddess, and the seasons changing, and the snow, and the orange on the trees, and the water, and the Buddha meditating, and a black goddess Mary. And now Demetrius asks a big question. Are you going to punish the people of earth who hate me and blame it on you? Jesus says, no. Everyone is invited to love and be loved. How about him? Asks Demetrius. And so I don't know if you know who this is, but that is the spirit of Billy Porter. Billy Porter is a performer, a singer, a dancer, an entertainer, a fashion person. And he was the first person who came to this award ceremony wearing a tuxedo that was also a ball gown, like a gown like a lady wears. He was wearing it. He was so happy wearing it. It was so beautiful. And so Demetrius wants to know, is Billy Porter invited to love and be loved too? And Jesus says, especially him. Love the dress, Billy. And Billy Porter's spirit calls up, yours too, baby. All the people on this page are wearing dresses. Even him, asks the spirit of the child. Even him, even Mitch McConnell. So I don't know if you know who Mitch McConnell is, but the grown-ups in your life probably do. And he has made some really strange choices that have caused a lot of harm. And so the child wants to know if he's going to be punished. And Jesus says, even he is invited to be loved and to love. Even him, yes. This is what unconditional love looks like. That means you don't have to do anything to deserve it. You just deserve it. Want to know what I love, Jesus? Asks Demetrius. And Jesus says, always. I love that you and me are black. And they connect up there. And now it's after church, and Dee is looking up in the ceiling of the church, still remembering how good that felt. You know, was it a dream? Was it a fantasy? Was it real? And this lady steps up to his mom. Church is out, everybody's leaving, but they haven't left yet. And this lady comes up to his mom and says, excuse me, I don't mean to be rude, but you need to keep your son awake in church and teach him right from wrong. There's a place for people like that, and it's not heaven. And stop dressing him in flowers. He's a boy. Look at mom. Does she look mad? She's mad. What you don't know is homophobia scares the hell out of me. Okay, so the reason that woman said those mean things to his mom is because she thinks it's bad to be gay. And she thinks she knows that this child is gay because he wears flowers. And he is, but like, anyway, mind your own business. So mom says, well, what you just said is very rude. Mind your own business and stay out of ours. So it's scary to him that there's people in the world who don't like him just because of things that's none of their business. Tell me again why we still come here, he asks his mom. He's upset that this happened. She says, I like the smell of the incense. There's that smell in church sometimes of incense. But she says, I'm so sorry that happened. Maybe someday I'll understand the hurt that causes the fear, that causes the hate, that causes the violence and stupidity. I said maybe. But love, I know all about. And now we see him. He's back in his father's arms. And his mom tells the dad what happened. And he says, thanks for telling me. That sounds awful. And she says, I'm so sorry he had to experience that. And Dad says, I am too. Are you really going to stop going just like that? Stop going to church? She says, yes. I know how to find God. I don't need a building. We could talk about that too if you want. She blows him a kiss and he says, love you, Mom, thanks. And he goes back to his dad's house and his dad says, your Aunt Viv's coming over. And he's so happy and he says, can Moxie come too? We're going to record our podcast. And Dad says, absolutely. That's Dad's house. And you see his work studio there? He's an engineer. And now the kids are dreaming up the language, the words and the poetry that they want to use to talk about who they are and how they want to be. And so this is like both of their minds talking to us at the same time. Before we were called black, or white, or brown, or queer, all these words. Before the world saw our bodies and decided we were a boy or a girl, or dark or light. Before we learned about our sensitivities, disabilities, test scores at school, zip codes, where we live. Before and beyond our being your child or that child, a child of this nation or that one, a child of one God or many gods, a child of earth or outer space. We were our own true nature. So underneath all of that stuff that gets layered on, you're your own true nature. Now the dad tells his sister, the kids are making a podcast in Dee's room. She says, oh, okay. She thinks that's really cool. We are born in a constant state of change, the children tell us, and we stay changing. Can you stand to stand back and behold us? Let us be all that we are and all that you are not. God, imagine that. And now they're recording their podcast. Do you see their little microphone at the kitchen table? Like a lot of wonderful ideas and businesses and artwork and social movements to change the world. It starts at the kitchen table. And Moxie says into the microphone, when the world is the way it should be, the way it can be, the way it will be, because it has to be. In that world, people's imaginations will be bigger. Beauty will shine out of us like starlight, like it shines out of Billy Porter in this tuxedo gown. We will rewrite the rules we live by. We're going to change the rules and love the world into balance. How about that? Love as a verb. We're going to love the world into balance the way the US representatives Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez do. Not just them, but especially them. Sensitivity will be valued as the superpower it is. That's something else we could talk about. Is sensitivity a superpower? Being able to sense what's happening? That's what Spider-Man has. And look at Aunt Viv looking at him. What could she be thinking? What's she saying to him without any words at all? We'll all be seen and celebrated and safe. To be genuine, that means truly who we are. To be whole, to be real. Moxie says, it's live, Dee. I sent you the link. That means the podcast is on the internet and anybody can listen. So he tells the people at school, we're going to celebrate our new podcast at the skating rink this Friday. Come if you can. And the security guard, remember how stern she looked at the beginning? She's like, I'm a security guard, I'm doing my job. Look at her now. Sweetie, I already was going to be at the rink this Friday and I would love to celebrate with you. And now he's looking at himself in the mirror as he gets ready for his party. And he tells us, what you don't know is I'm always going to love myself and find others who do too. I'll wear clothes so shiny, you'll see your own fears, and flowers to remind you my life force breaks concrete. Have you ever seen a flower grow through the concrete? I'll claim every color in the rainbow as armor and glow even brighter in the dark. How do I look, Ma? He asked. She says, you look like you. You thrill me, Demetrius. And now he's playing the podcast for his dad in the truck on the way to the roller skating party. All of me is all I want to be, and love is all I'm about. I'm Moxie, and I'm Dee. Thanks for listening. We are out. That's how they sign off of their podcast. You got a great voice, Dee, says Dad. Keep it coming. Does anybody in your life tell you that? Imagine how easy it could be if love were no trouble. Imagine how easy if love didn't cause any trouble. No trouble at all. What I know is that love is the easiest part. I feel it. Look, there's Dad and Aunt Viv and his mom. I get it. There's Ms. O and Mr. Vasquez and the teacher. I give it. I am it. I am love. Get used to it. And then there's the security guard. And she's doing a roller skating move called shooting the duck. I don't know what that means, but it's beautiful. And then there's a lot of people who helped me, but you have to read the book to see because I can't read them all. How's everybody doing?
That was great. Thank you.